Hi, hello everybody out there. Thanks for tuning in this morning and being a part of our early morning chat. My name's Daren Todd. I'm an artist and a curator and creative person that's based here in Portland, Oregon. And I kind of just want to share with you my journey and my daily art practice and how I kind of use procrastination as maybe the bumper walls on the bowling alley of life, if you will. I definitely procrastinated in writing this talk, first off. I think as humans, we each have the propensity to procrastinate in different ways, and as many ways as we have to be uniquely ourselves and uniquely creative, I think we also have the possibility to be uniquely procrastinative. Like I said, that could be used as a tool or as a stopping point. The choice is really up to us. And kind of in life, there's not really a lot of wrong choices. There's just a lot of different streams and avenues to go down. That's how I like to look at it. My specific form of procrastination is overbooking myself. So someone will call me and say, we want you to do this really, really big, awesome, amazing project for us. And I'll say, yes, super excited. Immediately I'll call my mom and tell her how excited I am to do this really awesome thing. And then I'll start to book more and more and more projects that are small. Oh, this will take an hour. Well, this will take a day. Maybe this will take like 3 days to do. And then I find myself doing absolutely everything possible. I'm like making statues of goats to put in public square downtown. I'm like rearranging my refrigerator to fit into a mini fridge so I can have one outside and one on the porch, and really like meaningless tasks that feel like are important. Really what I'm doing is I'm procrastinating on this really awesome thing that I said I was going to do until the last minute, the day before or the week before, and I realize this is it, it's do or die. And I think that's kind of how procrastination goes, is you get that pressure to perform and you just get it done. So that's me. I feel like a lot of creative people out there watching probably can relate to that. I don't think I'm alone there. But if I look at that style of procrastination and I look back over my life, it kind of makes sense to me. I grew up making music. That was kind of my go-to creative outlet. My parents took us to church every Sunday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, and we did a lot of music. My mom was the choir leader, and my dad was the soundboard operator. And so I tell people, like, I grew up right next to the speakers, and I learned how to play instruments, how to sing, how to put songs together, and arrange bands, basically, from watching my parents do that kind of stuff. And so I was always into music. In middle school, I took up violin, and in high school, I joined the district orchestra and just performed all the time, practiced all the time, procrastinated on practicing for the large shows all the time, especially as a kid, because, what have you got to lose? You're 15. You're going to procrastinate on it. And I kind of went from orchestra and classical music into garage bands where I would like sing and rap and have my friends play guitar and drums behind me. And we would, really make a lot of noise in one of our friends' garages and try to get, on stages and perform. And that kind of evolved into me starting to produce music, make my own music on the computer, make beats and sample sounds from around town and turn them into like little boom bap style, and started rapping. And in Santa Barbara, where I was born, there's really not like an avid music scene or a really big art network. And so I was always looking for that break, that moment, that time where I could say, like, this is it. And one of the opportunities that I got was to open for a band that was based up here in Portland, Seattle area. They came down to Santa Barbara. They were looking for someone to play on stage, and I was like, I can do it. It can be me. And the promoter at the time was like, okay, you got to sell X amount of tickets in order to be able for us to host this show. And so I sold as many tickets as I could to my mom, my dad, my partner at the time, and my therapist. And that's who was in the audience, those 4 people, for us to perform for an hour. And it was wonderful. And it was also really hilarious to look back on at this moment now. But it was the start of something. That band that I opened for, one of the guys in the band, he told me, you should really come up to Portland. You would love it. B, I'm starting a record label called It's Future Time. And I think that we could really do some interesting things together. You could come, you can stay at my house. You can make music all night and find a job and just come up here. So I rearranged my life and kind of really just changed my trajectory and said, okay, I'm going. And I came to Portland. I planned to stay for 3 weeks. That turned into 3 months. That turned into, now it's 5 years. I never went home. I liked it. The network here, the opportunities here seemed like this was the place to be. And so It's Future Time kind of formed bands within bands. It's maybe 15 different people that all work together in this collective setting where like I'll write a song, but maybe I need a bass line and some drums. So I'll send it off to my friend Anthony, and he'll write the drums, and then we'll send it to Mike, and he'll mix it and record it, and then we'll send all of that to Greg, and he'll master it, and then it'll come back to me, and I'll draw the album cover, and we'll put all that together, and we'll all tell our friends, and it becomes this community network of people that are interested in this music and this thing that's happening. We were able to take that format and perform all around town and do all kinds of shows, Kelly's Olympian and The No, which is not open anymore, kind of sadly anymore, but that's like Portland staple, I think, for people that are from here. And it was really going. And that whole time that I was doing music kind of by night, I was also bartending in the daytime to pay the bills, pay the rent. And most creatives who are trying to make that leap into just doing creative stuff understand that grind of like, I really don't want to go to work. Like, I don't want to spend time cleaning these tabletops that I could be spending drawing or I could be spending writing music. And so I think another really big turning point for me was setting my intention out loud. I started to tell people at work, by the end of this year, I'm not going to be a bartender anymore. I've been doing it for 4 years, and I love talking to people and I love serving people, but I can do it in such a bigger, more impactful way through creativity, and I don't want to do it anymore. So I started to say that out loud, told everyone at work, probably told my boss, which as I think back, maybe wasn't a good idea, but that's how it goes. Told my friends, told my coworkers, and then in March 2020, along with a lot of people that were working in the service industry, I get a call that's like, hey, hate to tell you this, but you're laid off, and we don't know when you're ever going to be able to come back. So fly free was kind of what they said. And a lot of people that I know were like devastated, rightfully so, worried, not sure where the next dollar was going to come from. And for me, in the back of my mind, I heard myself saying, you're not going to be a bartender by the end of this year. I was like, well, that's definitely going to be true. What am I going to do instead? And so I decided, I had always drawn and doodled and had just really started painting and figuring out like how to really apply color in a way that spoke to me. I'd always done art and paint and express myself in that way, but without music and without stages, I really thought, what can I do to still put myself out there and share who I am and what I've been through and what's important to me with the world. And so I just decided, art, this is it, do it, little voice in my head. So I started painting in my room like every single day. I must have read a couple different art books that were saying like, if you want to be an artist, you have to make art every day. If you want to be a lawyer, you have to study law every day. If you want to be a doctor, you got to like do doctor things every single day. And so I took those same ideas and applied that to art. And at that same time, I found Reddit. Well, I had already been on Reddit. Some of y'all know what Reddit is. It's like that really weird forum-y website that you can go on and read a lot of weird stories, is what people think it is. I went on there and they had just launched a live streaming component to their platform. And I decided, I think if I like tape some of this art to the wall or some of this paper to the wall, I can probably like turn around and paint live and people can watch me. And so people tuned in and they started watching what I was doing. And it went from like 7 people to 70 people to like 7,000 people tuning in, watching me paint. And it was kind of a moment of like, okay, if I can reach this many people all the time, maybe I can turn this into something. And so one idea led to another idea. I started streaming all the time, telling people like, go follow my Instagram, check out my website. If you like this painting, it'll be for sale in like 30 minutes when it's done. And that was kind of the basis of building that following, or that network of people that were just as interested in my art as they were in my music. And I think what was important there was showing up every day, or definitely at the very least, setting myself a schedule saying, I'm going to paint these days, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at this time, 10 a.m. I'll be there. And other people started to tune in and expect me to be there. And things just started to grow. I don't know. I got a grant from the Regional Arts and Culture Council, and it was definitely elevating to me. And it made me feel like, I am actually doing this, and it validated me as an artist. And I think that's another important thing for creatives is like, yeah, you can say what you do, but it really helps, and it's really helpful when you're able to get some validation, and it reinforces for you like, this is actually really what I do. And so that was helpful. And then I got to do a mural, and then I got to do another mural, because once you start to do one, another one comes, and another one comes, and another one comes. And at that time, the first mural that I got, it was from a coworker who called me and said, I remember that you really wanted to do art full time, and you wanted to do murals. My mom has this fence, and she really wants someone artistic to paint like Black Lives Matter on her fence. And so I came up with this design, and she said, but we want you to paint it today. So I okay, let's do it. Like, say yes whenever you can. Went over, started to paint the fence, and it says Black Lives Matter every day and every night. And it was a cool background, the sun, the moon. And it happened to also be along this path where people who were marching in protest of the murder of George Floyd last summer were marching along that street all the time. And so I would be painting, people would be marching, and it was some synchronicity that I think we all look for and we all like hope for. But those were the moments where I was like, I'm on the right path. So that mural led to a second mural where I was painting some neighborhood history of Portland. It was like just right around the corner from the first one. This wonderful lady, her name's Gina Frazzini, was like, I have this great fence, and I know that these cherry trees that are in this neighborhood were planted by a women's organization that was led by a Black woman in the 60s. Like, maybe you can build something up about that. And so I did a deep dive on some Portland research and was able to find a couple different moments of Black history from Portland that a lot of people have never heard about or don't hear about, definitely don't read about in school. And so I wanted to put all that together into this giant mural, and it's 50 feet long, 8 feet wide. Definitely one of those projects where in the middle I was like, I could have procrastinated on this. But once you get started, you have to keep going. So one thing leads to another thing leads to another thing. And one of the murals that I got to do was actually here in this space that we're in now, which is now the space for a gallery that I run. So when I did the mural, the owners of the building said, we have this open area downstairs, and we're not really using it because of COVID. We can't pack people into it like we used to. Are you interested in curating like artists and their art and just like letting it be your baby project? And I was like, yep, can't say no. That's kind of my personality, is if someone's gonna offer me an opportunity, I'm at least gonna try it and see how it goes. And so I started this gallery called the Downstairs Gallery. And the idea behind it is that I wanted to make a community and a safe space for people like me. When I grew up in that small town. It's actually called Lompoc. It's an hour north of Santa Barbara. Good people, but there wasn't really a queer community or a Black community that I was tapped into. And as like a young transgender person in that time, I just often felt isolated and alone and unable or unsafe to put myself out there. And so what I really wanted to do with this gallery was set aside a space for people like me to express themselves. So the downstairs gallery exists now. You can check us out. It's the downstairspdx.com. And we serve Black and Indigenous artists of color. We serve LGBTQ artists in the queer community, and we also serve artists with disabilities. And that's really the only bar to entry. In my mind, if you are in those communities and you're brave enough to put yourself out there, you deserve and it's your right in my mind as a creative person to have a space to put it so that people can come and see what you're doing and hear what you're working about and understand, your joys and your triumphs and your struggles and your hardships. And I think without that space and that opportunity, a lot of artists fall through the cracks. And so that's basically at least a good portion of my time right now is spent just trying to uplift and support other creative people like me. And I find out that through every single person that I uplift is also an opportunity to tap into another network and build a stronger community together. It's revitalizing. It's a good way to procrastinate too. If I ever have something to paint, I'm like, well, let me actually just reach out and work on this other project that's not centered on me. And it's like a positive thing to do, to look back on. So there are like tools and lessons and things that I've learned along the way. One of the things that I learned that I think is really important about the feeling of procrastination when I get it is, instead of just like feeling it and then being like, I don't want to do this, I have to stop and ask myself, why am I feeling this way? Like, is this project actually aligned with my goals and what I want to be doing and what I feel like is important? Or did I just say yes to something kind of on that artist's impulsive whim and be like, yeah, I can do that, and it's not actually in alignment with me? Sometimes that's a really big cause of procrastination, and it's helpful if you can go like, I'm feeling like I shouldn't be doing this, and maybe you can knock it out, ask for some help, get it done, and use that as a chance to say, I don't want to do things like that anymore. Other times, it's important to remind yourself that, no one really wants to sell things and no one wants to be sold to. And like, especially in this society, it's based on terrible capitalism to survive. There's this feeling of, I don't want to sell. I don't want to be pushing myself on other people. And it's important, I think, to reframe that mindset as a creative person, and don't think of it as like I'm selling my work. Think of it as I'm serving a need. What I have to say and what I've been through and my experiences, they are important. They're valuable, and the world needs someone like me and someone like y'all watching to say who they are and where they are and why they're there. Because there's someone else that's watching that needs a hand, a leg up, an example, or an opportunity. And by putting your work out into the world, putting pieces of yourself out into the world, you're not selling, you're really serving. And I think for me, that helps me like stay grounded and remember, like, I don't have anything to be afraid of. There's no reason to fear failure. As long as I'm being vulnerable and honest and intentional about what's important, someone somewhere is going to be impacted. And I think for me, and I think for a lot of the creative people watching, if one person can look at what you're doing and feel uplifted, mission accomplished. And so I kind of use that as the basis, just trying to touch one person at a time. So I mean, that's kind of the notes that I have and the list that I wanted to go over of like where I've been and what's important. And I think that if I could leave you with anything to take away from this talk and to like think about throughout the day, just think about letting procrastination be your guide. If you feel that resistance, ask yourself, where's it coming from? Why do I feel like I don't want to be doing this? And don't be afraid to reach out and use your network and your support community to say, like, I'm stuck here. Have you ever been stuck here? Can we get unstuck together? I think that's a strong tool. We're all here for each other, especially in this time where we can't touch each other, and sometimes we can't see each other. But I think in spirit, we can really help pull each other along, and it's important.